Hello everybody, ciao a tutti and welcome to Art with Ms.B. Today I'm gonna guide you in another short 25-30 minutes practice using oil pastels. So for today practice you will need a small piece of mixed media paper, any paper that you have available. If you don't have a specific paper for pastels, it's totally fine. A pencil for drawing and then oil pastels, any brand that you have available. If you don't have oil pastels and you still want to do the practice, or if you don't like oil pastels, you can try the same practice with crayons or color pencil. You will be able to blend and mix the colors. You won't have the same texture, of course. And also, if you're like me, who I love oil pastels and the texture and the richness that they bring into your piece, but I really don't like to blend them with my finger and I don't like to touch them so much, you can just do what I do, which is like a blending a little bit, overlapping different colors. So you blend it directly with the stick of the pastel itself, basically. If you instead love to get messy and touch the pastel, feel free to blend and try blending technique with your fingers. As always, and I always say, you do you. I give you some guidelines, I guide you through the practice, but you need to stretch it out and make it your own. So I'm gonna switch the camera and we can start and have some fun. Make sure that you read the description box so you get all of your materials ready, pause the video, and then we can practice together. And remember, if you go slow, you can pause the video, catch up with me, and then we can go together. Okay, friends, here we are. This is our small piece of paper. What I do, I have a big pad of 12 by 9 and I cut the pages in half, and this is my oil pastel box that I'm gonna move it on the side. So I wanna get inspired by the season, as we did already the beautiful mug with some hot cocoa and winter inspiration. Today we're gonna learn a very simple way that we can draw poinsettias. In Italy we call them the Christmas stars, and it's a very typical like a seasonal plant that remind all of us about the winter and the Christmas. So we start from the center and we kind of pretend to do tiny little drops. It's like that you want to create a tiny flower, but the petals of these flowers are more like drops and some circles around. Now we're going to develop the petal, and more or less we're going to have, let's count on 6, and to have some overlapping we're going to start with the petal from the top, and of course we want a very like a undulating line because the petal of the poinsettias, they look almost like leaves, so we don't want anything perfect, right, and geometrical. Then we're going to do another one here. They don't have to look, of course, the same. Then we're going to kind of find the one behind those two that might be a little smaller. Then we're going to do one more. And we really have fun. We move the pencil slow so you can kind of control and direct the pencil exactly where you want it. Then we're going to do one more to complete our circle. And then we are going to take care of the leaves. So for the leaves, a very nice way that you can do it, you can just do the line inside the leaves, and then you will shape more of a zigzag line, in this case your leaf, around these central lines. We can do one more here. They can be as small or as big as you want, and just use a very regular zigzag line. Now, since we are going to use oil pastels, you know that oil pastels are very they are wonderful for blending, for texture. They are not really like great for details and perfection. So some of our edges of the petals of the leaves, you know, we might lose them along the way, but then when we color the background, we're going to find a way to get them again. So when you color, you try your best to stay inside the leaves, inside the petals, but you don't stress too much if by accident you go outside, you overlap colors. That's the beauty of oil pastels. We put away our pencil And we're gonna play with some kind of red, magenta. Remember, it's more of an impressionist type of practice, so we don't have to be hyper realistic. We want to have fun and experiment and play around with the pastel. And I have a little piece of cardboard here where sometimes I just kind of clean my pastels because they can get a little messy. Although, as I told you several times, I love when they become messy. Now, if you're choosing to follow my techniques, for which I will just blend with the sticks itself, make sure that your first coat of color is not too thick. So it is okay to see some white underneath, because if you do a very thick coat, that is going to be extremely hard for you to blend and add other colors on top and make sure that you have the tones that you're looking forward to. Because it's like it would be too much, too thick, right? And so you won't be able to blend. Today we're not going to do any scratching on top. I won't, but that doesn't mean that you don't have to do it if you wish. If you practice with me, the other two practice that we did in the past before this one, when we create two beautiful mug inspired by pop art. So we have a colorful patterned background colored with a colored pencil, and then we use the pastel, and then at the end we use a scratching tool that it could be really anything, even a sharp pencil that you scratch some texture. If you want to do the same on the leaves, you're free to do the same today. If you didn't practice with me and this is your first practice, follow me so you can get like more familiar with oil pastels and the way that you can use them to create beautiful, colorful, and textured pieces. And then maybe you can go back and check my previous video. And they are all together. I will organize them all together in a playlist that is called Oil Pastels. So I'm setting my first color, my magenta, and as you notice, I'm not paying particular attention the way that I do. I just like spread the colors a little bit, not even everywhere, right? And I add a little more toward the center of the flower, and very gentle. I keep it scrubbing on the rest of the leaves. And remember what I say, don't do it too thick. Now I'm gonna switch and I'm gonna add like more of a orange red, and you see that we can start our beautiful game of adding layers. And I color with this color what I didn't color. As you notice, I'm doing my best to stay inside the shape of the petals, but if you cannot, mostly if you're a young student or the beginning or a beginner, is not a problem at all, because we are going to do the background at the very end and we will be able to retrieve, so bring back the shape of the petals and the leaves and have a beautiful contrast between the flower and the background. Don't worry if you're losing the separation between the petals. Once again, we're gonna get that back. We need to trust the process. As I always say to my students, sometimes mostly the young one, they have a picture or maybe they see the example that I bring into their classroom, and then they kind of get frustrated when at the beginning their piece look completely different, but I never let them throw the piece away. I say, trust the process. Now you do this, you do that. I guide them into the step, and at the end they see that the result happens. So sometimes the result is not exactly what we picture in our mind. We still finish it. We commit, we do the whole thing until the very end. And then we learn, right? And we know what we want to do differently another time, or what we want to do exactly the same because it was successful. This is the best way to learn, like an art. It's fantastic because it's hands-on, and you have to, experience, fail, embrace the failure, and do it again. Well, sometimes we have amazing surprise because the failure is actually a very beautiful failure, and we have, oh my, I didn't think about it that I could have something like that, and you like it even more. Now I'm taking a very dark red magenta, and I'm gonna go very, very dark toward the center of the flower, and I start to basically retrieve the separation between the petals. and I create some nice shadow basically between a petal and another. And as I say before, you can blend them with your finger. I want to because I really don't like the feeling, and I will blend them like that. Pretend that you're a little bit like Van Gogh, right? We do instead to do brush strokes, you will do pastel strokes. Don't worry about the center, we're gonna get that too. It's not gonna be perfect like a tiny, because it's very tiny and the pastel is not as tiny. If you wanna use a black pencil for the center of the flower, go for it. Someone is sending me text, but now I'm very busy and my hands are very messy, so it's not a good time to answer. The fun of the pastel that we can go almost as many times as we want with different tones, right? We can go back with a lighter on top of a darker. Now I will go back to my orange red and blend it together with this darker red, so we have some area of the petal that will be lighter, mostly around the tip, right, the tips of the petals, and then some area that will be instead darker, but both colors are completely blended together. We start to cover the gaps so we don't see the white underneath the color almost anymore. And don't really focus too much on the realism of the light. I want it coming from this way to this way. Just think about the drama that you can add to this piece using pastel, which is such an intense and rich media, and play around with this really like a hot color. Now let's get my little black. Let's clean it up on my cardboard, and we're going to do the center. You can tap, as you see, it's not gonna be perfect, but it's really 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 pretty and beautiful. If you want, remember that you can add gently, tapping super gently, barely touching the paper. You can add you can expand basically the black into the petals. Look how beautiful is that. Very nice and dramatic. Now we switch and we go on to the leaves, and you can play around with the green that you have available, overlapping different green. I would do definitely a little bit darker when it comes to the leaves next to the petals or between. And then I extend this dark green that I will mix then with a brighter green. I love, love, love this, the green between the petals. We're gonna retouch them also with the red, right? Remember, it's still, it's a working process until it's done. So you can always go back and fix a little bit some of the outlines of the edges or whatever you're doing. in this case, the edges of our leaves and petals. Here. This one probably is going to be my darkest leaf, so I'm going to spread a little more of this color. I'm going to expand it here as well, and here. Now I'm going to grab another green. Let me see. It's very light. Let's try something that it's and we are going to start tapping on top of the other green. Don't worry about the paper is getting messy because your hands will get messy, but remember that the background is going to be the last thing that we do, and we're going to make sure then that the whole paper will be colored and you won't be able to see, your fingerprints anymore. So you go on top with a lighter green, you go around the edge of your leaves, and once again you do your best to stay within the lines that you trace with the pencil. If that doesn't happen, it's not a big deal because we have the background to work at the very, very end. Nice and rich. A little bit over here. And here you can use your fingers as well. Trust the process. I want a little brighter green. Let's see if this one is going to be too much, maybe. Well, I like it though. It's sort of a lime green, and then I will go back on with the darkest green. It's just that I want to light up the tip of the leaves and define their zigzag, the shapes a little more. As you notice, I'm not going to go everywhere, just on top of the lightest green. And then I love this green, but it's a very, very yellowish. It's a lime green, so I will go back with the other green. So we're going to kind of tone it down. And just take away a little bit of the warmth that it comes with this green. And let's see if this one is, there you go. So I'm gonna go once again with the first green, the darkest. We're gonna kind of cover up all the white gaps. And we go gently, very gently on top of the light green that we just used it. So the two greens will blend together, and we don't go too dark, but we don't go too light or actually too warm. Nice. Remember that we have our friend, the white, that is going to help us as well. The white blend the colors together. Now, if you overuse it, so if you go too much, it's going to make everything look pale, right? But if you do the right amount here and there, it's gonna kind of bring you some light and some like nice value. And remember, value, when we say value in art, we intend to basically the light and the darkness, light and shadow, right? Where does the light hit the piece that we are creating? And it's beautiful to have spots that are very, very dark in comparison to other spots that are instead very light. Gonna go back with a very, very as thin as possible green that I can. I really want to keep the idea of the, leaves behind. And now with the red, we're gonna retouch, right, some of the petals because we want to make sure that we have the shapes of the petals very evident. And I'm going to take a little bit of this nice pink. Instead of shading the petal with the white, that could be too light, I have a nice antique pink. Remember that your box of crayons might be different, so you might have less color or slightly different colors. It's okay. Be intuitive and just pick the color that you think that work together well. Pick the lightest or the darkest shade of something, or pick just the color that you feel very attracted to, and let's see what happens. Remember that we're not doing a realistic poinsettia, so we're not focusing on the representation of the flower itself, right, as it is in the nature, but the way that we play with the visual representation of it. Like, and we can change a color. For instance, if you want to have some purple in your poinsettias, go for it. Really free yourself. And now we are going to do a background. And look, at my table is getting messy, my hands are getting messy, we are getting into the practice. Let's see if I can share like a little bit, like a closer, the beautiful, beautiful texture that is coming out. Now I love something very dramatic. I'm gonna do something really dark, an extremely dark blue, and then we're gonna light it up and see what happens. Actually, this is like a dark blue purple. So I'm gonna go around the edges of the leaves. This time, try your best to go really around and kind of support their zigzag shape. So do your best. If by accident you go inside the petal, inside the leaves, don't worry and don't stress yourself, because you know that you can go back and you can fix it. So we go nice and slow so we can control. This is what I always say to my students. You need to go nice and slow, because if you go faster, you cannot control, right, your hand. So you want to be able to control the movement and the direction that you're giving to your hands and to the pastel. We're gonna go all the way. Nice and dark. This very dark blue purple. If you don't have a blue purple, just go for a darker color. But since you have to do you, if you think that a lighter color would be better for your background, go for it. And just focus on the way that you gently outline the all shapes, of the flower and the leaves. Then you spread a little bit of colors around those edges, right? So you can blend it up with something lighter, but you will have this beautiful, beautiful dark and dramatic color around. But if you want to do lighter, you go lighter. If you want to have a light blue, go for it. If you want to keep on the warm side and so have a sort of an orange background or whatever, just go pinkish, for example. I think that I love huge contrast between colors. I love contrasting a color palette in artwork. This is what really enhance my feelings and my emotions toward the piece. But as I always encourage you to do you. So, and you can even do the practice more than once. You can repeat the video, so you kind of review the way that we draw the poinsettias together, and then you can do it in different colors. Now I'm gonna mix a blue and see what happens. This might be very light, but I love the way that they mix together, and probably I'm gonna add something darker on top. Really love it. So you go gently, don't press too much, because remember what we say, if you have a very, very thick coat, like it's gonna be difficult for you to blend it. Now you see that when I use this color on top of the very dark one, it's giving me a darker blue. And as you can, you just saw that I went a little bit on the petal. It's not a big deal. Then I will retouch it with a little bit of red, because I want to retrieve that feeling that the petals are, the flower is above the background, right? So as I was saying, when I go on top of the dark blue purple that I use at the very beginning, the color is giving me a darker shade, and then when I go on the white paper, it's giving me a lighter, so it's perfect. I'm gonna go very quickly, a little bit here, all the way, so the paper is nicely colored. On the darkness and the lightest. There you go. Here I want it to be a little darker, so I added more of the first. Someone else is sending me text. And this is weird, because this is a text from my husband, who is, I think, outside. No, downstairs. Well, probably not. He's probably already at the gym. This is when I practice art. Honestly, I forget about everything else and everyone else. I don't know if it's good or bad, but it is exactly what happened. Now I have a little like a purple, which is lighter compared to the first one. And I'm going to kind of use it for a final blend and blending together this darker spot with a lighter spot. Also, I personally like when the background is very textured and a little rough. If you like it smoother, you can keep adding more and blending more. You can blend it with your fingers if you wish to do so. I really like it when I can see the strokes. One of my favorite artists are part of the post-impressionism and Fauvist movement, because I'm really always been attracted by texture and imperfections and roughness. This is what make a piece really speaking to me. It's really authentic. But as we always say, each one of us has a different style. So if you wanted a better blended and more like a smooth background, you will just have to go a little more with the same technique that we have been using so far. In my case, I love it like that, like this, and I will just go with this final color, and I want my strokes to be really evident. I want to be able to see them. We are about to be done, my friends. Thank you so much for committing to this practice and doing the whole thing. It's so beautiful. It's just like, you're dedicating, you're taking the time for yourself, no matter if you're doing it because you're building a portfolio, because you want to become better in art, or because you're a student, homeschool student, and you need to enrich your curriculum, or no matter if you're just like an adult taking some time to do some art and getting inspired. I really, really love it. Let's get back this red. I want to go just slightly over a couple of places on my petals. Really final touches. Beautiful. Touches with green, touches with red, a little bit of darkest green, just to make it a little more intense, and off you go. And we have a beautiful, beautiful, very messy table, of course, all of my messy pastels, very messy hands, but very, very happy heart. Oh, let me just one touch here. There is always some gaps. I like to see some gaps, but not when they are very, very big. And look how pretty and beautiful we did these poinsettias, or Christmas stars, as we call them in Italy, together. I'm gonna turn the camera so we can say goodbye, and I hope that you had fun, and you can place these in your portfolio, or you can frame it. Another beautiful, beautiful oil pastel project. Okay, friends, it's time to say goodbye. The video is already over 30 minutes and I don't want to take too much of your time. How pretty is that? Look how pretty, 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 pretty. Look at the texture, beautiful. You can turn around in any directions and save it in a place, frame it, or give it to a special person. I hope you had fun. Now you should go wash your hands. This is what I do. Wash the table, put the pastels away, and just get ready for everything else that you have to do in your day. Hopefully something fun. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider to subscribe, to spread the words, and like the video. That is the most important feedback for me, so I keep kind of understanding if I go in the right directions, if I have to switch something, or what my viewers like the most. Thank you so much. It was so fun to spend some time with you all, and I see you very soon. Ciao a tutti.